Continuing on in our series called Overcoming. Different things we're overcoming. We talked about overcoming temptation. And in the broader sense of the word, it's been several weeks since I've taught this, but in the broader sense of the word, temptation in the sense of taking anything that hell would have to offer us over what God has to offer us. I want to talk to you today about overcoming fear. In the weeks to come, we'll be talking about overcoming poverty. We'll be talking about overcoming your body dictates, in other words, your health issues. We're going to be talking about even health issues because it's my job as a pastor to see your life, spirit, soul, and body prosper. So we're going to talk about some of those things. So I'll tell you when it is probably, so if you don't want to come because you don't want to hear, no, I'm just kidding. Listen to this, talking about overcoming fear. One summer night during a service, one summer night during a severe thunderstorm, a mother was tucking her son into bed. She was about to turn off the light when he asked in a trembling voice, "Mommy, will you stay with me all night?" Smiling, the mother gave him a warm, reassuring hug and said tenderly, "I can't, dear. I have to sleep in Daddy's room." A long silence followed. At last, it was broken by a shaky voice saying, "The big sissy." Get it? Dad needed, yeah, okay, I got it. We talk about fears and everything from natural fear to phobia fears. Listen to some of these phobias. Now, I'm not going to be able to pronounce these very well, so let me just get these things from you. Phobias, there's some phobias. It's peladophobia. It's the fear of baldness and bald people. Which I have found that out, that I'm losing some stuff back here. Aerophobia, fear of drafts. Drafts. Now we're going to laugh at these phobias, but these are real to some people. Porphyrophobia, fear of the color purple. Chateauphobia, this is a good one, fear of hairy people. My wife's always saying, I got these old men hairs on my back, I don't know. They get about this long and they start running down your legs, whatever. Too much information, wasn't that? Hey, it's Father's Day, I can do whatever I want. Levophobia, fear of objects on the left side of the body. Dextrophobia, fear of objects on the right side of the body. Auraphobia, fear of the northern lights. Caliprophobia, fear of obscure meanings. Boy, I think there's a lot of people that I've run into pastoring that got the wrong idea about things. How about this one? None of you have this morning. Thylacephobia is the fear of being seated. You guys did all right with that one. Stabastaphobia is the fear of standing and walking. Some of you have that phobia about walking. Odontophobia is the fear of teeth. Boy, you got a real problem if you got a fear of teeth. Graphophobia is the fear of writing in public. Phobophobia is the fear of being afraid. Now you're laughing at those, but those are all fears that people have in their life. They're actually diagnosed, clinically diagnosed fears. And I would guarantee that there's probably some people that probably suffer from phobia-type fears. I'll tell you what, we'll break that thing right now in the name of Jesus over your life. God's not giving you a spirit of fear, but a power, love, and a sound mind. Let's look at the effects of phobia, or phobias, or the effects of fear in people's lives. I believe the Greek word for fear, there's several different Greek words for fear, but one of them is phobo, which means is where we get our word phobia. 1 John 4:18 says, "There's no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear, because fear involves torment. But he who fears is not made perfect in love. So fear involves torment. Many of you are tormented. You know, I think the number one reason why we don't accomplish the will of God for our lives, and a lot of the things we don't do in our lives, are caused by fear. We just, you know, fear holds us back from. How many of you in this room would say, gosh, I wish I would have invested in that, but I was afraid to invest in that? How many of you got that thing? All of us, all of us somewhere, man, I wish I would have bought that piece of property. I told you this story one time, but this guy out in Michigan, I was out preaching out in Michigan, in northern Michigan there. Beautiful. We went there in the fall. It was beautiful in there. And this guy said, hey, I got this guy in my church that's got a white-tailed deer farm. I said, okay, well, let's go look. So we drove by and saw all these white-tailed deer, big rack bucks and different things. And so, I don't know, probably 6 months later, I get this call and said, hey, this guy's kind of losing stuff right now. He needs an insurgence of cash. He said he wants people to help invest in, to help buy a deer. You kind of invest in a deer. I said, well, how much does he want for a deer? He said, well, this one he wants $100,000 for, to invest. I'm like, I'll shoot the thing, but I'm not investing in it, So I'm not going to spend $100,000. I have to take everything I have in my life, sell some things, and invest in that deer. A couple months later, he calls me up and said, he just sold that deer for $1 million. Well, the deerophobia got on me about that one. I don't know about you, but the deerophobia got on me. Many of us, I remember when I was first out of high school, I was making $15 an hour when I first got out of high school back in 1979. I remember looking at a house in Hawkinson, up on the hills of Hawkinson. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, probably 1,400 square feet. And there was no way I was going to spend my money on it because it was $37,500. How many of those would you like to have right now, the $37,500? But fear gripped me in my investments. And I could have bought 10 houses and, been worth $2 million today probably. If I would have bought that same house, it would be $200,000 today, at least $200,000. I would have been worth at least $2 million. And so many times we have just different fears in our life that we don't do because fear grips us in things. And I'm not saying we should just flippantly go out and do stupid stuff. I don't know how much research I would have to do on a deer, but I probably wouldn't have bought the deer anyway, no matter how much research I had, because it just isn't my field of expertise. But real estate, I've missed out on a lot of good deals in real estate because fear overcame me. And I think many of us have missed out on things because fear grips us. We don't enjoy life sometimes. We don't enjoy some of our lives because fear grips us, We don't do some things that are kind of fun because fear grips us in different things. And so fear has torment with people sometimes. Look at Matthew chapter 14. Look at another thought about fear here. We know this story, very familiar story, when it says this is verse 25 of Matthew chapter 14. It says, now in the 4th watch of the night, Jesus went to them walking on the sea, and when his disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, it's a ghost. And they cried out for fear. Immediately Jesus spoke to them, be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid. And Peter answered and said, Lord, if it's you, command me to come to you on the water. And Jesus said, come. I always just laugh at this. I always bring this up. But Peter didn't leave, he didn't really leave him a choice. He said, hey, Jesus, if it's you, bid me come. Well, what's Jesus going to say? It's not me. So he steps out there. So you command me to come. So come. And Peter had come down out of the boat. He walked on the water to go see Jesus. When he saw the wind boisterous, notice this, he saw the wind boisterous, he was afraid and began to sink and crying out, saying, Lord, save me. And immediately Jesus stretched out his hand, caught him, and said to him, O ye of little faith, why did you doubt? And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased, and those who were within the boat came and worshipped him, saying, truly, you are the Son of God. I don't know about you, but I'd be worshiping him, and I'd be saying, Peter, that was a pretty cool deal you just did there. But let's look at this story just in a thought process, just a little bit deeper, that first off, the dude walked on water, which is kind of amazing. That's a pretty tricked out deal there. I don't know about you, but I've never been able to get any kind of substance underneath my feet when I tried to walk on water. But here he walked on water, and then immediately when he saw the wind boisterous, it says, he began to sink. So fear saps us of spiritual power. Fear saps us of spiritual power. It takes away spiritual power from your life. So fear, just when we begin to fear, it saps us of spiritual power. And then, and then obviously then you can see also, so then fear is the opposite of faith. Let me give you 5 different types of fear, and then we'll talk about overcoming just a short time we have left. Here's just 5 different types of fear that probably hinder us, and probably every fear can be taken underneath this. Now, of course, we're not talking about the natural fear of getting too close to a cliff or something like that. But I remember when I was a kid, we had this maple tree across the street, and we just thought it was the coolest thing. It was a big, round maple tree. The thing was huge, hundreds of years old. And we just get up in that maple tree, and the first part of it was pretty easy, but then you get up way up high, and then pretty soon you got up on the top, and the new growth was about this big, and we'd crawl up there, and the wind would blow, and we'd be swinging back and forth in the wind. We just thought it was so cool to get up there, and you're about 50 feet up in the air, and the wind's just blowing you back, Well, one day my mom showed up. That was into my tree climbing business, If you ever get up there again, I'll beat your little zuba as hard as I can. Da, da, da. And I never got to climb that tree again because I wanted to be obedient to my mom. But I didn't have any fear back then, but there's a natural fear that sometimes parents have to instill in boys especially. It's probably a good thing to a certain degree. But there's that natural fear that we won't even just talk about, but that natural fear that comes on is probably healthy in some ways. That was probably more healthy to me, because if one of those limbs broke, then we probably would have a problem. Let's look at 5 things that probably aren't healthy for us. Number 1 is the fear of failure. Bankruptcies, lack of investments, non-risking, I believe we can live a life of regrets because we fear failure. I don't know, maybe that fear is, I think I have a pretty high tolerance rate for failure. This is not a fear that I deal with a lot because, in some ways I do, but in some ways I don't, because I like to invest and I like to risk. This is a big one. How about this? The fear of man is a big one. And under that comes public speaking. If I would say that the number 1 fear that I have in my life, now that you're going to laugh at this, but the number 1 fear that I have dealt with the most in my life is the fear of public speaking. The number 1 fear that I've dealt with all my life, and fought it this morning, fought it for 31 years, is the fear of public speaking. Now I deal with it, and it's not even part of my life hardly anymore, but I can't tell you that I don't deal with that fear, but because I believe it involves the fear of man. Proverbs 29:25 says, "The fear of man brings a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord will be safe." And when we fear what people think about us, it's always fascinating to me the way we always get tripped out about. That's why I don't know, this Facebook thing's okay, but gosh, it just gets to the place where I just want to slap people on Facebook. There's a like button there. Is there a slap button on there? I want a slap button on Facebook. We should do that. We got a couple people that work for Facebook and from connections to Facebook from our church. So maybe we could put a slap button on that one. How many of you agree with that one? Wouldn't you like that? They post these dumb things and you just want to slap them. And I can't tell you, I'll be honest with you, I can't tell you that every time that I have come out of Facebook, there's some times where I come out just saying, I want to just write them a letter and just tell them what I think. They're a little jerk. They don't know nothing. They haven't built anything. They don't do anything. They're just dumber to post and half as useful, and they think they're smart. Yeah. Anybody ever felt that way besides me? I would like to have $1 for every time I've written something out and didn't send it, because I would love to have that. But I can't tell you that stuff like that doesn't bother me sometimes. How about this one? Here's another fear. The fear of death. The fear of death. Christians should not fear death. And I pretty much think that most of us don't fear death. We just don't like the dying part. So Philippians chapter 1 verse 21 says, "For me to live is Christ, to die is gain." As I get deeper into the things of God get closer to the Lord, and my relationship with Him has grown over the years. I don't know about you, but I'm 54 years old. I'll be 55 pretty quick. I'll be 55 pretty quick. And I'm already feeling the pull of heaven. It seems like when you're 18, 19, you're feeling the pull of birth. Oh man, I wish I was 18. I wish I was, I wish I was this. And when you get to be our age, you kind of start feeling the pull of heaven as maybe I wish I was maybe 30. If I was 30 again, I might be, something like that. But I'm feeling the pull of heaven because of just the sweetness that I sense of the Lord. And another 30-some years and we'll be out of here. But we should not fear death, but so many people fear death. How about this one? The fear of harm. Fear of harm. We fear drowning in water. Never could understand the fear of airplanes. Theresa got the revelation that the pilot wants to get there worse than you do. And once you figure that one out, you're probably all right, So Proverbs 1:33 says, but whoever listens to me will dwell safely and will be secure without fear of evil. Psalm 91, he who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I'll say of the Lord, he's my refuge and my fortress. 16 verses. I'll say of the Lord, he's my refuge and my fortress, my God, in him will I trust. Surely he'll deliver from the snare of the fowler, and the noisome pestilence will deliver from the snare of the fowler. He goes on 16 verses. He says, with long life will I satisfy you and show you my salvation. Now, I just take it this way. You might take it differently, but I take it this way. If he said he's going to satisfy me with a long life, that airplane going when I'm heading for Japan, going down to the Pacific Ocean is not long life to me. So I may be the only one that lives out of that airplane, but I'm going to live a long, healthy life because Psalm 91, I'm going to have some angels picking up them wings and bringing them on and saying, oh, you guys are with me, we'll all live out of this thing. You say, well, do you really think that can happen? No, I don't think it'll happen. I know it'll happen because I don't have the fear. We got to get over the fear of harm. We got to get over that fear of harm in our lives. Now, I'm not stupid. We don't want to go to places where, you don't want to go to places where you shouldn't be. And we went to Pakistan one time, and I went with Howard Ferris, and Howard was doing a crusade over there. And I went to Pakistan, and it wasn't comfortable for me because you were either in the crusade or you're in a hotel room. You couldn't get up and walk around. You could go nowhere. It was because you had the fear of harm on you, and I was you just had to do that. So. But sometimes it gets to be a phobia type thing that people have. You can't do this. You can't drive a car fast. You can't drive a Harley fast. And those cars, if they say 120, that means you should at least try that once in a while. Would you agree with that? And all the guys said, "Right on, baby." Yeah. Here's another one that's an interesting fear: is the fear of being loved. Ladies, don't hook up with Joe Jerk. Don't hook up with Mr. Stupid because you fear being loved. Not being loved, I should say. Don't hook up with them. Let me give you 5 quick things about overcoming fear. Number 1, make a decision today to do something about it. 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7 says, God has not given us a spirit of fear, but a power of love and of a sound mind. Henry Ford said this, the industrialist says, one of the greatest discoveries a man makes is one of his great surprises is to find he can do what he was afraid that he could not do. Think about that. One of the greatest discoveries a man makes, one of his great surprises is to find that he can do what he was afraid he couldn't do. Make a decision to do something about the fear that you have in your life today. Decide today to do something about it. Decide today that I'm going to do something about this. I'm going to take some kind of step today to overcome this thing, whether it's a phobia. Well, I just don't believe that you can just if you have a fear of water, I'm not sure you can, take a scuba dive lesson tomorrow. I'm not sure that's what the degree you should go. But, you at least got to get out in the rain or something, get out where it rains or something. Do something in that thing. I think that's one of our steps, actually. But do something today to make a difference. I believe that will make a difference in your life. Here's number 2. Stop taking counsel from your fear. Take counsel from the Word of God. Stop taking counsel from your fear. 2 Corinthians 10:5 says, casting down arguments and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing every thought captive to the obedience of Christ. Start taking thoughts captive of your fears. Don't listen to the dictates of the flesh. When I was in high school, I had a class that I don't even remember what class it was. I can remember where it was at in the high school, but it was something. But I knew by the end of the year I was going to have to give an oral speech. Well, I'm not even sure I knew what the word oral meant back then, but I finally realized it was public speaking. So I signed up for the class and I had to speak. And I remember, there's times where I think I finally did one, but I think there was times where I'd take an F before I'd get up in front of people. I remember at a basketball banquet, I had to get up and honor Coach Blue, who I played for at Battleground. And I got up and I was so nervous. I could not believe how nervous I was. And then when I preached my first message, I'm talking about wearing out the bathroom. I'm talking about, public speaking just does not come natural for me. It just doesn't come natural for me. And so, but I had to stop taking advice from my fear. I had to stop listening to what my fear was saying to me and just had to say, wait a minute. You're a lie and the father thereof, and nothing is going to happen. And you know what's amazing to me? Out of 31 years, now again, it's just like like on a scale of 1 to 10, it's maybe a half now. But when I first started pastoring, it was like a 9.5 phobia type fear. I would sit on the front row, cold sweats, literally panic attacks would come out during worship. I would literally have panic attacks, cold sweats. I would have like a panic attack. And I knew that once worship was over and I stepped up on the stage, they would go away. But when I was sitting there, I would literally have a panic attack. I didn't know what a panic attack was. I just figured out later that that's what that was. Cold sweats, just not wanting to do this, crazy stuff, feel like I got to use the restroom, all this kind of stuff. And I just said, you know what, fear? This is what God's called me to do the rest of my life. So if this happens to me every Sunday morning for the rest of my life, fine, but I'm not going to listen to you, and I'm going to get up there and I'm going to do that. And you just have to quit listening to your fears. You have to quit taking advice from your fears, because the advice that fear gives is always loud and proud, and it's cut many of you off from different things that God's called you to do in your life. Many of you haven't started businesses because you were afraid. Now, again, every time I say that, somebody goes out and quits their job tomorrow. Please do not quit your job tomorrow. Sweetie, the wife of the person that's quitting their job, I did not tell them to quit their job. Matter of fact, I'm saying stay on the job until the job pays you enough where you have to quit your job because you can't do that. Are we cool on that? All right. Well, Pastor told him to quit your job. No, I did not tell you to quit your job. Number 3, step out by faith. Take some small steps. Do something today. Decide something. Write down something that you're going to do today to overcome that fear. It might be study and investment. It might be checking into the college that you needed to go to. It might look someone in the eye that you couldn't look in the eye before. It's amazing to me how many people, and when you talk about this, about eye contact and things like that and being afraid sometimes of people, it's amazing to me how many people then they try to look at you and stare at you after you talk about it, So there's nothing wrong with looking at somebody and looking away every once in a while, because you just stare in your eyes. We'd think you're kind of weird then. That's just a little weird. You're just like, look away once in a while, just But there's just something about that where you might want to just boldly walk up to a person, give them a firm handshake, look them in the eye, and say, "How you doing today?" And for some of you, that is terrifying to do. But do something to overcome that today. Start today doing something to overcome your fear. Whatever it might be. Go to school, check into a college, go back and get your degree, do something, graduate from high school. You say, well, I don't know if I want to do that. Don't let fear dictate to you what God is saying the opposite of. Step out by faith. Do something today. Number 4, realize this. Fear is not you. That's not you. That's not who you are. Don't label yourself as the person with fear or the phobia type fear. We had a gal that came to our church for a while, and I don't think she could handle it. And I went to high school with her, and bless her heart, I won't tell you her name, but bless her heart, nice lady, really nice lady. And I got on Facebook, and she Facebook requested me, and I hardly remembered her name, but she Facebooked me and said, I've been watching your messages and things like that. And she said, I've been watching your messages, you really have helped me. And she said, and then she gave me her story. And she was sexually abused by a family member, and fear came upon her, phobia type fear. And she literally didn't leave her house for almost 30 years. She didn't leave her house. This is a person I went to high school with. And she didn't leave her house for almost 30 years. And now she's out. She came to our church for a little bit of time. She tried to come. I said, come on, man, we'll believe in you. We'll love you, so and so. And she came to church for a little bit, and now I notice on Facebook she's walking around town all the time. She literally walks all different places and different things. But you can say, well, that's just crazy. That's just stupid. That's just nuts. Well, not to her, it's not. Not to her, it's not. So just do something. Don't do something. Do something. Realize that fear isn't you. Don't grab a hold of that fear. Don't take a hold of that. Numbers 13:33 says that we saw the giants, the descendants of Anak came from the giants. We were like grasshoppers in our own sight, so we were in their sight. Don't speak what the fear has to say about you. Speak what the Word of God has to say about you. Amen? And the last one, and we'll close with this one, is realize the power of a promise in the Word of God. Let me read these. I love these scriptures. Listen to this. This ought to just minister to you. Just listen to these scriptures. This is Paul. Now here's the man, the Apostle Paul. He gets up, preaches the gospel. They stone him to death. That's not marijuana. That's actually stones that they stoned him to death. They didn't blow smoke at him. They actually threw stones at him. He's laying down there. He's like dead. They like to kill people throwing stones, stones at people. When we were kids, we threw little stones, but I'm talking about great big rocks. They stone you. They throw stones at you. This dude's laying there dead. He gets shipwrecked a few times. He's beaten with rods. Beaten with rods is where they lay on your back, put your feet in stocks, and then they beat your feet to a place where you can't walk and cripple your feet up and everything else. It's a nasty, nasty rod, about like a dowling rod. And they take them and just beat the bottom of your feet till your feet break and bleed. And I mean, just crazy stuff happened to this guy. And here's what he says. This is a promise that we grab a hold of. This is the guy that went through all this stuff. Romans 8:31. What shall we say to these things? If God is for us, who can be against us? He who did not spare his own son, but delivered him up for us all, how shall he not with him also freely give us all things? Who shall bring a charge against God's elect? It is God who justifies. Who is he who condemns? It is Christ who died, and furthermore is he who is risen. Who is even at the right hand of God who makes intercessions for us? Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall tribulation, distress, persecution, famine, nakedness, or peril of sword? It is written, for your sakes we are killed all day long. We are counted sheep for the slaughter. Yet in all these things, in all the fear and all the junk and all the negatives and all the phobias and all these things, yea, in all these things, we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. For I am persuaded neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor height, nor depth, or any created thing shall be able to separate us from the love of God, which is in Christ Jesus our Lord. Nothing shall be able to separate. Man, that's a promise from God. If you didn't have any other promises in the Bible, man, you could go out and conquer the world with those scriptures. You can conquer fear and anything else that comes against you. Your past, don't let your past hold you back. Doesn't matter what your past is. God doesn't care about your past as much as he cares about your future. You got to pay man's judgment for your past, but you don't have to pay God's judgment. Jesus paid your judgment for you, nailed it to the cross. God doesn't have a past. You don't have a past. All you have is a future when it comes to the things of God. Are you getting this morning? There's something about that. We can overcome fear, but you've got to step out there today. Will it be a battle? Yes, it'll be a battle. It'll be a battle for you when you overcome a phobia type fear, but you can and will overcome that. Will it take a little while? Yeah, most of these things don't go instantaneously, but they will leave your life. I remember first times Theresa and I invested in some real estate, bought a piece of real estate, bought a house, and then rented it out, and bought another house, and rented it out and bought another house. And each time, man, I'm going to there, sign the papers, and I'm just thinking, what in the world am I doing? This is crazy. What am I doing? I'm signing papers, and now I own 2 houses, and then 3 houses, and then 4 houses. And what am I doing about all this stuff? Man, what if the economy tanks? And what if this happens? And what if that happens? And what if this happens? And fear is very articulate, and it comes up with 1,000 excuses of what can happen. Fear knows how to, yeah, but did you, fear will talk to you like this. It'll say, yeah, but did you consider this? Yeah, but did you consider this? Well, we need to hold up a promise of God's word. It says, yeah, but I'm more than a conqueror through him that loved us. I've told this story 1,000 times, but this is the last one. This is my second closing. More than a conqueror is just simply this. So you're like a boxer. You go out. You get into a ring with, who's a good fighter? Mike Tyson. We all remember Mike Tyson, don't we? Washed up, no good guy, just gone, done. Get in the ring with Mike Tyson. He's a fighter. Man, he gets in there. But you get in that ring. You get in there and you fight. Bam, bam. Poof, poof. You're Evander Holyfield. Yeah, got the ear cut off or bitten off, but that's all right. You win the fight. Have you seen the commercial where he comes up and hands the piece of his ear back to him? Great commercial. Love that. Should put that as a scripture in the Bible. So good. But I'm just kidding. But, okay, you get out there, you fight, and all of a sudden, bam, you knock Mike Tyson down. You walk down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You're out. Heavyweight champion of the world. I am a conqueror. Where's my paycheck? $20 million. I am a conqueror over Mike Tyson. I walk home. I walk in the door. And Theresa says, how much did you win? I said, $20 million. And I hand her the check. And she is more than a conqueror. She didn't have to fight. She didn't have to do anything. She just gets to collect the check. And that's what more than a conqueror is all about. Jesus is the conqueror, but we are more than conquerors. You didn't earn it, didn't pay for it. It's nothing you did. But the reality is, he won the fight for us, and now we are all more than conquerors through him that loved us. Did you get anything out of this today? Let me pray for you today. Let me just pray for you. Let me minister to you this morning. Can I pray for you to take that step? I mean, I know this may seem like some of you like, well, I don't know, I understand what you're talking about there. But I want to pray for people. I want to lay hands on you. I want to start off your week just getting rid of some of this stuff and at least beginning to say, this is my day. There might be 1, there might be 20, there might be, I don't know how many there is. But if you suffer from fear, just like I did, suffer from fear of public speaking. Crazy to suffer from fear of public speaking. I'll speak in front of anybody now, and crowds don't bother me or anything like that. But boy, it was a long time. That thing bugged me for years. Fear of water, whatever yours might be. Let's start off breaking that thing over your life.